Tracey Grissom now?
Um, well, I would say that I'm the best version of Tracey Grissom that there's ever been. Um,
You told me you said something about your freedom that struck me.
um, I'm freer in my mind and my headspace today, locked up, than I've ever been in my life.
What is that freedom like? Is it just a peace of mind?
It's a overwhelming peace. It is a cakewalk compared to what I lived in.
How do you grieve young Tracey, everything prior to May of 2012? How do you look back on her? Is that with sadness, with grief? Um,
Um, what I try to do is I can't change the past. So I try not to look at the negative, but instead turn my pain into purpose. And so here, I really try to push forward to help people that are not as far along in their journey as I am, to try to bring them up to find the peace that I do have today.
I want to talk about the shooting, obviously, but I want to go back to the courtroom. Your attorney did not introduce battered woman syndrome in your case. Why not?
Um, at the time, it had been 2 years. I was out on bond for 2 years before they even had me evaluated. And so at that time, I had been in extensive counseling. And the expert said that they couldn't say for sure whether I did or did not have PTSD at the time of um, the shooting, but also the testing that they did for me, it came up that I was malingering, which they now say that the test that was given to me is not specified. It is more because battered women syndrome is a complex PTSD, and so my scores being everywhere, um, wasn't that I was malingering or trying to be inaccurate. It was a true sign of mental illness. And I was given the same test again when I came into Department of Corrections and got the similar results. And I've been being treated for severe PTSD, anxiety, depression, and battered women syndrome for the 8 years I've been incarcerated.
So you've been treated for the very same thing that the judge did not allow in your trial.
Correct.
When you look back on that day, and you've admitted to shooting Hunter Grissom, your ex-husband, that day at the boat ramp.
Unfortunately, yes, ma'am.
The debate was between, is she a cold-blooded killer? Did she want his life insurance money? Or is she a battered woman?
Right.
Where are you on that scale?
I will regret stopping that day for my entire life. I will regret the pain and the hurt that I've caused to family, friends, and so many numerous people that it has affected. But still sitting here today, on that day, I still feel that I would have lost my life. And I put myself in a bad situation, and I have to pay the consequences for that.
You can second guess yourself for decades to come, no doubt. And I know you've thought
Absolutely.
about it. Would one of the options have been you stopped at the boat ramp to get evidence, a picture you said
Correct.
that X was working because his work truck was at the boat launch that day. If you felt he was coming towards you aggressively, why not get in the car and drive off? Why not leave?
I was already in the car. Um, I I honestly cannot give you um, a sound response to that. What I can tell you, that day, I felt I had nowhere to go. To me, going forward, I would have went off an embankment. Going to the right, I would have went into the lake. Going to the left, I would have ran him over. And going backwards never even crossed my mind. When it happened so fast that there was no thinking involved. It was pure reaction.
Did you want him dead?
Honestly, no. I wanted him to go to prison. I wanted him to fear the way I feared. I really had to deal with myself on that. People in prison who have heinous crimes are usually taken care of by other inmates, should I say. And that was what I at that time wanted. I wanted him to pay for what he had done and the harm and the fear he had done to me and my children.
How bad was the abuse that you talked about in the trial?
Um,
Bad enough that it changed your health.
oh, absolutely. I have had 27 surgeries. Now, when I finally left, the abuse got worse, physically and mentally, which statistics says it does. I'm lucky to be alive. I did not think that I would be alive. Even 10 years ago, I had everything set out for me to be dead. My will, my trust, everything was set up for my kids because I didn't think I would be the one that make it out alive.
You said that in your confession. I was watching it just a moment ago where you were rocking back and forth and you said, I always thought he would kill me. I never thought I would kill him.
Right.
Still feel that?
Unfortunately, yeah.
I know it's in intimate detail, your injuries, but bottom line, your injuries, you say, are caused by a sexual attack, by a rape.
I was raped and sodomized on numerous occasions. And so what happened is I had nerve and muscle damage in my rectum, which caused a whole lot of problems that were very hard to diagnose and until extensive over time. Because to begin with, they didn't realize that there was nerve damage. And they were treating me for constipation, for stress, for several different things. But after going in and out of the hospital for impaction, my doctor sent me to UAB, and that's where they found doing manometry that I actually had total nerve and muscle damage in my rectum.
And that's documented medically. For
Absolutely.
those who would say, no, that's not why she is in this situation. It was surgery or something else or some
Yes,
genetic
ma'am.
situation. Um, what do you say to those jurors who sentenced you to, the judge and the jury who sentenced you, found you guilty of murder, not manslaughter, and sentenced you to 25 years in prison?
To the jurors, I forgive because for one, I want to be forgiven. But second, I don't believe that they got a full view of what had really gone on. And that's where I really believe that Alabama law does not protect women in domestic violence situations. I believe, and I had 3 jurors come back to my Senate sentence, say that had they had known the whole story, they would not have convicted me. What I can say today is if I had not been sent to prison, I probably would not be alive today because mentally I wouldn't have made it. As far as the Judge England, he had a job to do. And unfortunately, at the end of the day, Alabama law states that prior difficulties are not submissible in a court of law in a homicide case. So he had to go off of what he had to do. And I get that, just like the investigator that was on the Grissom side, he had a job to do. Unfortunately, not everything falls into every single little bracket. And that's where I think a whole lot of things are missed in the state of Alabama.
I assume you haven't had contact with Hunter's family.
I have not had direct contact with Hunter's family. I had a no contact order placed when I came to prison. My father did fight to be able to keep correspondence with my daughter. So for 8 years, I have been in contact with her through letters and sending things to her, but it was only through my father.
Do you still have contact with her?
Unfortunately, right now I do not. My dad passed away in April, and so I am fighting to find another contact.
What do you say to his family, though they don't want to hear from you apparently? What would you say to them?
Um, my daughter and my son are the true victims of all of this and the family, because not only did they lose a father, they lost the mother as well. And I pray every day that his family will forgive me and allow me to be able to form a bond with my daughter and be able to have um, contact with her uh, at whatever they would be willing to do for real. I know that I took their son, but in response, they're taking my daughter.
How old is your daughter now?
She's 13.
How old is your son?
He's 22.
Do you have contact with him? I know he has been through it too. Do you have contact with him now?
I do have contact with him. I talk to him on a regular basis, as well as my grandchildren, and he's doing amazing.
Okay, so he's not everything he went through. He's not in prison or jail or anything like
No,
that.
ma'am.
Okay.
He
Do you
went
have
through.
grandbabies?
Yes, I have three grandbabies, and they are my world. And thankfully to technology, I get to have FaceTime visits with them, so they actually know who Grammy is, and that to me is amazing.
Wow. Have you been able to put your arms around them? Do you ever have visitors, or is that
I have
COVID
never
or
been able to put my arms around them, and um, I have seen my son on numerous occasions since he was 16 and been able to put my arms around him. Unfortunately, we have not had contact visits in well over 2.5 years, but they're supposed to be starting back up. I have not asked my son to bring my grandchildren, because I know how hard it was for him, visitation in Tutwiler, and the mental anguish that it did to him at 16. I don't think that they're mature enough to understand.
um, that day when you stopped for that picture and it changed the course of it? Well, a lot of things changed your course and Hunter's too, but so you emptied the gun.
Mm.
In that split second when he fell, did you feel, was it shock? Was it panic? Do you remember? Or did you have not relief, but a moment where you said, he's never going to hurt me again?
Um, it happened so crazy fast, and I remember bits, small bits and pieces. I do not remember everything. I do, however, remember once I realized that I saw the bottom of his shoes, it was oh my God. Oh my God moment. Um, and I wouldn't say that at that point I had a relief, because that definitely isn't a time for that. My thing was to get to speak to the police and try to get help.
Yes. Oh, okay. Okay. 1 second. Photographer's going to stop his email because it'll ding occasionally if he gets
Mhm.
an email. While he's doing that, so you eligible for parole in 2029. You've served
8 years.
8 years, eight
Yes,
years
ma'am.
because you were out on bond or waiting for.
Yes.
Okay, okay, 8 years. What was Tutwiler like? Right now we're here, and you may know this. I don't know how much access you have to the news, but you've got an inmate strike underway, and stories are always coming out. For you as a woman, what was Tutwiler like? Was there any rehabilitation for those women there?
Um, no. um, Tutwiler is so dark. It's something that is really unexplainable that you really can't understand unless you've been there. Um, it's more of a caging and medicating type place.
Caging,
Um,
meaning so many people in one area with not a lot of movement, and medicating, meaning
just
people are.
whatever problems, just medicate. That's the treatment, is to medicate.
What about where you are now?
This program is amazing. I wish that there was more facilities like this, because this is actually predominantly male facility. There's only about 100 women that have the privilege to come through here at one time. Um, this program is based off of treatment and therapy, and the classes rip away the layers and get down to the core of what the problem is, then the issue, and it reprocesses your thinking and reprocesses um, positivity and self-worth, and just so much that, and it's biblical based.
I think some people may be shocked that here's a woman who's was sentenced to 25 years for murder and is in a place like this. How did you end up here?
Well, I was actually in Birmingham Women's Work Release Facility, which is the lowest custody that I could be in. That custody is because of over my 8 years being not being having a bunch of disciplinaries, working, doing what I'm supposed to, going through classes. I've taken over 90 classes in my incarceration. But I was doing really well in Birmingham and had put in to be a van driver because I qualified. And unfortunately, in 2017, I had a whole lot of medical issues that goes back to my ileostomy and medical stuff that we had talked about previously that was untreated. And I almost lost my life. It's by the grace of God that I'm still here. And so a lawsuit was placed, and I was transferred to this facility to get put out of ADOC system.
Have you received an update on the lawsuit against the medical company that treats inmates in Alabama?
I have not recently had an update. I know that we are due to, the attorneys are due to be speaking back with the judge, I think in October.
You told me in an email that 10 years ago you said this, and you say it today, and you say, I'm not a bad person nor a danger to society. You
Yes, ma'am.
feel that way?
I still feel that way. Yes, ma'am.
Looking back on that day, it was reactionary, you say, from the abuse.
Right.
I'm still struck by that wasn't part of the defense, but I understand. Is part of your goal when you leave prison to change this?
Um, I have, through my 8 years, and I will continue to work to be a voice for domestic violence and to get battered women syndrome more recognized in the state of Alabama, especially in the legal system. And it's very real, and it does not discriminate. It does not discriminate for race. It does not discriminate economic background, period. And I'm trying to be a voice for mental illness and the recognition of it, because it is a major cause of why the prisons are crowded today. And if you don't get to the treatment to treat it and get to the core of it, then you've never fixed the problem.
Did you have mental illness as part of a diagnosis, or are you saying that the reason this happened is because of the abuse? I just didn't know if there was another something that you've been diagnosed with, or that that you deal with, that you may have had when you were younger too.
Right. I dealt with severe depression as a child. My upbringing was definitely not the picture perfect upbringing, but the majority of everything was due to the abuse.
How long did it take you, and does it still happen? Do you focus on what happened that day? I know you don't look into your past, but was there a phase to work through with nightmares, um, forgiving yourself, coming to grips, the graphic things that you've saw and you've been through? How do you process? How hard was it to get through that? How often was it weighing on your mind?
Mentally draining. I had horrible night terrors. I would fight out in my sleep. They had me on a very strong antipsychotic medicine for sleeping at night. Um, once once the mental health people started helping me to understand battered women's syndrome and to understand and how to break down compartments. When I would have triggers, I would start to notice what the trigger was and what it was causing. So it has been a ongoing thing, and I mean, I still today learn something new every single day, and I continue to go through classes to so that I can be the best version of me possible.
Looking back on Hunter, how do you describe your emotions and thoughts on him now?
Um, Hunter was an amazing man and an amazing father. Unfortunately, he got on drugs and methamphetamines turned him into a monster.
Anything else you want to add about anything?
Um, My biggest thing I would say is anybody that is being abused or in an abuse relationship or has a friend that has abuse to really reach out. There's tons of help out there. It's very, very scary, but I wouldn't want anybody to not be aware and end up in the same situation that I'm in. And that's what I strive every single day. If I can help somebody else not end up in the situation I'm in, then it's made for a good day.
And that's your goal when you get out of prison.
Well, I plan on opening some abuse homes and doing a foundation for abused women and addicts.
How do you deal with the backlash that may come? I mean, I know you can't control that, but you're always going to have the Grissom family. You're always going to have, I mean, there's Facebook pages
Right.
for you, against you. How will you deal with that?
That was really a hard pill to swallow. But what I finally had to do is not pick up labels that don't belong to me and to know who I am and not worry about what people say, but instead prove to the world who Tracey really is.